Welcome to NTD Evening News. I'm Brendan Fallon. Our top story tonight, Mexico and Canada promising retaliatory action against President Trump's sweeping tariffs, the latest on the looming trade war. Secretary of State Marco Rubio visits Panama to discuss the threat of China with Panama's president. America has witnessed back-to-back deadly plane crashes in less than a week. Investigators are still trying to determine what caused each crash. The latest details coming up. Elon Musk accuses the U.S. Agency for International Development of funding bioweapon research, including COVID-19. This after USAID refused to hand over documents. Chinese-linked AI and social media apps are banned from federal devices in Texas. The state's governor says it is to protect critical U.S. infrastructure and intellectual property. And we look at how the Chinese community in Flushing, New York, celebrated the Lunar New Year this weekend, plus a message they want to share with the world.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. Two devastating plane crashes less than a week apart have left communities shaken. Federal investigators are still trying to determine what caused the crashes so they can prevent them from happening again. NTD's Jason Perry has the latest updates.
In Philadelphia, the aftermath of Friday night's plane crash is still unfolding. A Mexico-bound medical transport plane fell from the sky less than a minute after takeoff, killing all 6 people on board and also a person on the ground as the plane crashed in a busy neighborhood. On Sunday, Philadelphia's mayor said the crash damaged 11 homes and injured 22 people, 5 of whom are still hospitalized. The chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, gave an update on their investigation.
I do want to mention we are still looking for the cockpit voice recorder. We have located the 2 engines, but for the cockpit voice recorder, we are still looking for it.
And at the same time, the NTSB is investigating what caused a military helicopter and a passenger jet to collide in D.C., killing all 76 people on board both aircraft. An official in D.C. said on Sunday that 55 of the victims have been positively identified. Investigators say preliminary data shows there was a discrepancy in the altitude readings between the helicopter and the airliner. Also on Sunday, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy raised some questions of his own about the crash in D.C.
What was happening inside the tower? Were they understaffed? Was it a right decision to consolidate the positions of the air traffic controllers from 2 to 1? Those are questions that we need answers to.
And while the investigation is currently underway, he said the Federal Aviation Administration has limited the airspace for helicopters to use around Ronald Reagan National Airport until more details unfold. Jason Perry, NTD News.
A look now at the reactions to President Donald Trump's tariffs. An executive order signed yesterday is raising concerns of higher prices for American consumers. NTD's Fiona G. reports.
President Trump's order Saturday places 25% tariffs on Canadian goods, except for oil, natural gas, and electricity. Those will instead be hit with a 10% tariff. All Mexican imports will be hit with a 25% tariff. Another 10% tariff will be imposed on all Chinese imports. The tariffs are set to begin Tuesday. The decision has not been without controversy. Proponents of the tariffs, including Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, say they're necessary to stem the flow of illegal immigration and fentanyl precursors. Critics, meanwhile, say companies will pass the price of tariffs on to consumers. This is a point of contention after President Trump ran on the promise of lowering the cost of living for Americans. There are also concerns of souring relations with America's biggest trading partners.
You mentioned a little bit earlier how the United States depends on China for critical minerals and metals that you need for semiconductors, that you need to build electric vehicles. Well, guess who also produces those? Canada. You depend on us for a lot, and we are happy to work together, but it's got to be a two-way street.
Canada announced retaliatory action shortly after Trump signed the order.
Tonight, I am announcing Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum made a similar announcement on X. She said her government would impose what she called Plan B, which includes both tariff and non-tariff measures to protect Mexican interests. She did not specify, however, which American goods exactly would be targeted. China has not announced any retaliatory tariffs, but the Chinese Commerce Ministry said it would file a lawsuit against the U.S. with the World Trade Organization. President Trump posted on Truth Social Sunday saying that any potential economic impacts of tariffs are worth the price. It remains unclear what actions the president expects from Canada and Mexico in order to reduce or abandon the tariffs. Trudeau said he had been trying unsuccessfully to reach President Trump since the inauguration on January 20th. Trump did not speak with the Mexican president either before ordering the tariffs. Fiona G., NTD News.
Let's bring in Russ Kennedy to discuss more on these tariffs. He's the founder of Fortis Analysis. Russ, good evening.
Good evening.
Let's start with day one of the tariffs. How soon could Americans expect their wallets to be affected by this?
Well, it won't be 24 hours, from Tuesday. A lot of the things that are going to be impacted, the cost of goods is already baked into. So if, for example, we're talking about oil coming out of Canada, that 25% of everything that comes in after that date will be impacted. But you're talking about as much oil as the United States utilizes and produces. We're not talking about 100% price shift in the market that reflects that 25%, because Canadian oil is coming in, it's getting blended with a whole lot of other oil that we produce or that gets produced from other countries and imported here. And so the impact is likely to be relatively minimal. Where you might see some is, the cost of immediate imports for, certain types of produce and things like that. But that's not really what President Trump seems to be up to here. This isn't just about economic fairness. This isn't just about balancing the scales of trade. In a lot of ways, it's about reminding USMCA, the two countries who have benefited the most, Mexico and Canada, from free trade with the US over the last couple of generations, going back to NAFTA. These countries' economies were largely built on access to the US market through free trade agreements. And this is President Trump reminding them that if you are not going to cooperate with us as an ally in all things, you don't necessarily deserve to have free and unfettered access to our markets and to our consumer base.
When Canada enacts its recently announced retaliatory tariffs, the Canadian market could become less attractive to American producers. Will U.S. producers focus more on the U.S. market then, perhaps cutting prices to offset the lost sales in Canada?
Well, Canada's consumer base and population base is nowhere near that of the United States. And most of the things that are produced in the United States, they would tend to stay here. The United States used to be a massive net exporter to the world of everything from manufactured, goods, household appliances, machinery, electronics, all of these sorts of things. And that's not so much the case today. So a lot of the things that, Canada would be bringing, tariffing, if you will, coming in from the U.S., these are things that, for the short to intermediate term that Canada and Canadian citizens would be able to live without. In the same way, the U.S. would be, any producers here that would likely be impacted by that would be looking, yes, towards home first, or towards the European markets, the Middle Eastern markets, South America, countries that have, and places that have historically bought from the U.S. If and when U.S. appetite and demand shifts to export to those. There's no way out of this without a little bit of short-term pain in one sense, but it is not the apocalyptic doom and gloom scenario. U.S. producers that primarily or predominantly export to Canada will be able to offset that fairly rapidly with minimal impact to their businesses.
Canada and Mexico have both made efforts on the border issue. Canada has a $1 billion plan to fortify its border. Mexico has also recorded record drug seizures. Trump has said the tariffs are in response to illegal immigration and fentanyl, but Trump hasn't set out any clear demands saying, if you do X, Y, Z, we will stop the tariffs. Why is that?
Well, if I had to guess, so I'm not privy necessarily to President Trump's, inner world and the inner circle of what they're discussing, but this is certainly a pattern of negotiating behavior, of taking a stance, making a very forceful action doing so largely without a lot of warning to the market, maybe a few days or whatever. But the point of what he's doing here is to remind them of who the big stick is. Canada and Mexico have done very, very little, relatively speaking, to the amount of problem that there is on illegal immigration as well as fentanyl moving across the borders over the last, several years. This is something that goes back well before the first Trump administration, where they gave a lot of lip service to being willing to help, but relative to the scale of the problem have done so little. And so this is not just, well, we've taken actions in the last 2 weeks or last 3 weeks since the president was elected. The horse was already far out of the barn by that point. This is about reminding them that there are consequences, not only for a failure to act today, but for past failures to act as well within the recent memory. They were not cooperative regimes when it came to these issues. And Trump's first time around, they did not become any more cooperative during the Biden administration. And so this is really an effort to rebalance the scales and say, if you want access to our markets, if you want continued access to the consumer and demand base that has grown your economies so much and that your economies are more reliant on than we're reliant on you, we can take that hit longer than you guys if you do not step up and help us.
And these tariffs are due to come into effect on Tuesday. Do you see any possibility of a last-minute stay or delay on their coming into effect?
Well, I've seen some people that have been pointing to the situation with Colombia as an example of Trump kind of walking back these promises. But the difference is that there was not an EO that had been written, vetted, teed up. This was a planned action. This is something that I know firsthand goes back to the first Trump administration as something that he really did look at as a serious option for securing cooperation on the fentanyl crisis and on the immigration crisis. So whereas Colombia was, they took an action specifically, Trump heard about it, and then the president decided to just announce that a thing was going to happen. He absolutely can do that, but that was very much tit for tat if you look at the game theory of it. This has all the hallmarks of something that has been planned for a long time. It was just a case of when. Nobody really seems to know. So what that argues for is even if they bend the knee and Canada and Mexico offer anything they can or these concessions to try to stop this from happening, I would imagine it's still going to be implemented for a time as sort of a preemptive punishment against future non-cooperation.
Ross Kennedy, founder of Fortis Analysis, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio visits Panama today to discuss threats of Chinese influence with Panama's president. Here's the story.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio arrived in Panama Sunday. He shook hands with Panama's foreign minister, spoke some Spanish, told some jokes,
I'm sorry to bring you guys on a Sunday, but at least it's not Super Bowl Sunday.
And met with Panama's president, Jose Raul Molino.
How did your meeting go?
There is no doubt that the canal is operated by our country, and it will continue to be so.
President Molino addressed President Donald Trump's comments late 2024, threatening the country.
We will demand that the Panama Canal be returned to the United States of America.
Secretary Rubio says the current status quo is unacceptable. He says the Trump administration has determined Chinese influence threatens the canal and violates the treaty Panama signed when the U.S. gave the canal to it. Rubio said during the meeting the United States will take measures necessary to protect its rights under the treaty. No final agreement was reached, but President Molino did announce steps to reduce Chinese influence.
The Memorandum of Understanding of 2017 about the Silk Road, the Belt and Road Initiative will not be renewed by my government.
Panama joined China's Belt and Road Initiative in 2017. This is China's plan to help other countries build infrastructure. President Molino's announcement marks a shift away from China. Molino also agrees to help the U.S. with moving illegal immigrants back to Latin America.
Elon Musk accused the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID, of using tax dollars to fund bioweapon research, including COVID-19. It was in a post on social media platform X today. Musk currently heads the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. USAID gave millions of dollars to nonprofit organization EcoHealth Alliance. EcoHealth is accused of collaborating with China's Wuhan Institute of Virology on coronavirus research. Last year, a hearing was held to examine the use of taxpayer dollars to fund research at the Wuhan lab. The hearing also examined EcoHealth Alliance's role in funding potentially pandemic-causing research. Musk's post comes after USAID refused to turn over classified material to DOGE inspection teams. Following this, 2 top security chiefs at the agency were placed on leave. It also comes a day after DOGE carried out a similar operation at the Treasury Department. Governor Greg Abbott has expanded Texas cybersecurity measures by banning Chinese-affiliated AI and social media apps, also adding to the state's prohibited technologies list. The move aims to protect critical infrastructure, personal data, and intellectual property. NTD's Don Ma has more.
The governor of Texas announced a ban on Chinese AI and social media apps. The ban applies to U.S. government-issued devices and includes any such apps affiliated with China or the Chinese Communist Party. The ban aims to prevent potential data harvesting and espionage by the Chinese Communist Party. Governor Greg Abbott emphasized the need to protect critical infrastructure, intellectual property, and personal data. The list of apps banned include China's DeepSeek AI and the Red Note social media platform, among others. The ban comes just a few days after President Donald Trump's nominee for Commerce Secretary said DeepSeek stole data from the U.S.
How could it be more clear than this week when DeepSeek, a Chinese AI, says they were able to create things dirt cheap? How? By leveraging what they've taken from us, stolen from us, or leveraged from us. It's outrageous, and it needs to be addressed.
AI startup DeepSeek has rocked markets after showing to be able to compete with the U.S.'s OpenAI. U.S. users also flocked to Xiaohongshu, known in English as Red Note, in the days leading up to TikTok's short-lived ban. It's a popular app in China and surrounding countries. Lemon8 is another app that was banned. Lemon8 is also a Chinese company owned by ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok. The social media app also gained traction in the days leading up to the original TikTok ban on January 19th. Don Ma, NTD News.
Coming up, we look at how the Chinese community in Flushing, New York, celebrated the Lunar New Year this weekend, plus a message they want to share with the world.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one, get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one, get one free offer goes away.
We come from a long line of farmers, and there's a sense of pride with being part of these multi-generational businesses. But there's also a significant amount of pressure. My senior year of high school, my dad made the decision that this world no longer needed him in it. I don't know if he was overwhelmed by the bills and checks that weren't going to be coming in because of the strawberries dying off, but it breaks my heart that my dad made a permanent decision for a temporary issue. don't feel like you have to go through it alone.
Farmers have to take care of their physical and their mental health, because what's a farm without a farmer?
In the mornings, that's my time. Watching the sun come up, I can have a cup of coffee and exercise if I want to. It helps me start the day with a sense of gratitude.
Yay!
Every day is a new opportunity. Don't forget to check in on yourself. Love, your mind.
The Trump administration is reportedly working to close a ceasefire deal between Russia and Ukraine that says at least 15 civilians are reported dead after a Russian attack. Here's an update on the war in Ukraine.
Russia reportedly launched a barrage of drones and missiles on Ukraine this weekend, killing 15 people. That's according to Ukrainian authorities, who say the attack damaged dozens of residential buildings. 11 of the 15 people reportedly passed away in Poltava. A survivor describes the shock.
My son, daughter-in-law, and granddaughter are here. They've been killed here, all three of them, within a second.
And in the Sumy region, 3 police officers were reportedly killed during the attacks. Meanwhile, the Trump administration seems to be confident that the president can end the war soon. Special envoy for Ukraine and Russia, Keith Kellogg, was on Fox News saying a deal might be close.
Well, I have a lot of confidence, Brad, in President Trump. He's a deal maker. He's going to make it happen. He's talked about it back in September.
But albeit the confidence, the special envoy suggests reaching a truce might take longer than expected.
I would like to say it's months, but it's not years. I'm talking about, I'd like to think that we could have something in the short term.
President Trump previously said he'd reach a deal to end the war as soon as he enters office. So far, no progress has been made public.
5 days into the Lunar New Year, Asian communities in Queens, New York kicked off the new year with a grand parade yesterday. A faith group there was raising awareness of the transnational suppression on its followers by the Chinese Communist Party and the party's infiltration in the U.S. NTD's Flora Hua was there. Here's the story.
I'm here in Queens, New York. Behind me is a Lunar New Year parade hosted by the Asian community in New York City. They host this parade every year, and it's one of the biggest parades in the city. And you can see there are many different groups celebrating Chinese and Asian cultures. And here's what some participants and audience members told me about why they're here today. Happy Lunar New Year! One group of Chinese American students traveled from a high school in upstate New York to join the festivities. Another student dressed up as an ancient Chinese soldier to celebrate the holiday. Alex is a senior in high school. He said the ancient Chinese soldier symbolizes the characteristics of endurance and steadfastness.
Drums were used militaristically in Chinese history. So we're wearing warrior costumes as if we were part of an ancient army.
Of course, we're here today to join the parade for the Chinese Lunar New Year here in Flushing, New York. We want to show the people we're participating in the section of Falun Dafa practitioners. So we want to wish all the Chinese people here in Flushing a Happy New Year and show them the beauty of Dafa. Bring out the message about the practice of Falun Gong, of course. And this is also the banner we are carrying here. It's actually the first sentence of the main book of Falun Dafa.
Another parade goer, Matias, said he started practicing Falun Gong in Belgium about 20 years ago. He explained that the spiritual meditation system is banned in China by the Chinese Communist regime, adding that now the regime is trying to export its persecution outside China's borders.
Of course, this Chinese Communist Party has been suppressing Falun Gong so long in China, and they have committed the most terrible crimes. And of course, they are afraid that the Falun Gong practitioners like us here in the West, they are afraid that we will tell people what's going on in China, about all the terrible things they have done over there. And if the world will hold those Chinese Communist Party members accountable for everything they have done.
It's a beautiful assembly here of music, tradition, values, the ingredients we need in our culture right now, in our world right now, and we're not getting enough of that.
Liz is a longtime resident of New York. She says she enjoys seeing Chinese culture celebrated in her city.
I feel that the people that are here especially are seeing the difference between the party and they're saying no to that party, and they're trying to help us understand more about it from just being out here in the streets and talking about it. And I think they're very appreciative to be here. And it's the people we care about most, not the party, the people.
Many Falun Gong practitioners have found refuge in the Chinese community here in Flushing. That's after they came to the U.S. to escape the brutal persecution inside China. Yuan Xinjue is a Chinese dissident who has been living in New York for over a decade. Back in China, her properties were forcibly demolished by the Chinese regime.
When the Falun Gong procession came by, we were very excited. It was truly spectacular and brought a positive atmosphere to society. We really liked it when the procession passed by. Their infiltration is too severe. The CCP is carrying out transnational persecution. The U.S. government should take this seriously so that society can remain clean. They commit evil acts and have brought their persecution in China to the United States.
Many people watching the parade say they support the Chinese culture and people, but they do not support the Chinese Communist Party's infiltration and transnational suppression here in the U.S. Flora Hua, NTD News.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm Brendan Fallon. Good night.
Discover the ancient secret to vitality and longevity with Puretang Black Ginseng. Crafted from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng, each root is carefully nurtured for over 2,260 days, undergoing a traditional